Welcome to the class on the history of English language and literature. In the class today, we are going to discuss the first half, that is the history of English language. In your SLM, Units 1 to 8 deal with the history of English language. Unit 1 is titled Language, Definition and Characteristics. Unit 2 is Importance of Language. Unit 3 is Indo-European Family of Languages. Unit 4 is Germanic and the Origin of English. Unit 5 is titled Introduction to the Development of the English Language. Unit 6 deals with Old English. Unit 7 contains a discussion on Middle English. And Unit 8 deals with Modern and Present-day English. These are the 8 units devoted to the study of the history of English language. Let us take up these units one by one. In Unit 1, which is titled Language, Definition and Characteristics, we deal with the basic outline to English language. The basic information is provided to you in Unit 1. Let us first understand what do we mean by the word language. The word language is derived from a Latin word lingua, as you can see on the first bullet point on your screen, which means tongue. As we move to the Middle English period, language came to mean talk, conversation. When we study language, we are dealing with a very specialized science. This is termed linguistics. Linguistics is the scientific study of human language. And there are various branches of linguistics, as you can see on your screens. Phonology, phonetics, morphology, syntax, semantics, pragmatics are the broad branches of linguistics. When we take up the second course, the structure of modern English, you will study each of these in detail. In your SLM, we also talk about some linguists. Some of the linguists whose contribution is important are listed on your screens with their years of birth and their years of death. Ferdinand de Saussure, Leonard Bloomfield, Noam Chomsky, and Charles Foucault. These linguists are important. Remember their names and their contribution. You will find a little more information about these in your SLM, and we will come back to these linguists when we do the second course on the structure of modern English. For today, let us quickly look at what the Swiss linguist Ferdinand de Saussure says about language. For Saussure, language is a system of signs, and sign is the basic unit of language. So the terms, as you can see on the slide heading, sign, signifier, signified, are important in the study of language. According to Saussure, there are 3 aspects of language: sign, signifier, signified. Let us try to understand each one of these one by one. First, sign. Physical object. Whatever is the physical object. You're listening to the lecture now. You're participating in the online class with the help of a device. It could be a laptop. It could be a tab, it could be a mobile phone. So whatever that physical object is, a chair, a tree, a table, your phone, your laptop, this is the sign. The physical object represents the sign, or the sign represents the physical object. Now this physical object has a word, a picture, a sound. When I say chair, I am uttering the sound. Laptop, it is the sound. So whether it is the sound of the tree or whether it is the tree that is spelled down, TREECHAIR, LAPTOP, laptop, PHONE, phone. This is the signifier. Finally comes the signified. When we talk of the sign and when we utter the word or when we look at the picture, the concept of that object, the laptop, the chair, the tree, or maybe a simple pen that you have, and the mental image of that object is the signified. Now this whole process is extremely arbitrary. When I say chair, the image, the mental image that conjures up in my mind is something that is used to sit on, something that generally has 4 legs, maybe 3 legs, generally has arm supports, has a back support. So that is the image that is being invoked in my mind, which is the signified. Similarly with the tree, there is the object tree which is actually there on earth in the ground, and we write it with the word T-R-E-E, or we utter it tree. This is the signifier. When we think of the object tree, there is a mental image, and that is the signified. Now remember, there are certain objects or certain things that are abstract. Not everything is concrete. Feelings are all abstract. Does love have a form or a shape? Does hate have a form or a shape? But there is a mental image evoked when I write down the word H-A-T-E, hate. If that part of Ferdinand Saussure's concept of language having sign, signifier and signified is clear to you, let us move on to the 7 properties of language as discussed by Charles Hockett. Charles Hockett, as I told you in one of the previous slides, is a linguist. He says that this is not common to only, this is not very specific to English language. It is common to any language. According to Hockett, there are 7 broad properties of language. We'll look at these 7 properties one by one now. There is duality in language. Language has a sound system, the phonological system. You can listen to me speaking now. That is the phonological system of language. And then there is the grammatical system. You're looking at the slides are written down. There is a grammatical pattern that is being followed there. So every language has duality. We have the phonological system, the sound system, and the grammatical system or the written system. Second property of language. Language is productive. Language produces new expressions and meanings. This is where we take up semantics. Semantics is the study of meanings. You will know a little more about semantics in a slide to follow. You will also learn about semantics in detail when we take up the course on the structure of modern English. Bullet point 3, arbitrariness in language. Language is extremely arbitrary. The relationship between a word and its meaning is arbitrary. Suppose I say finger, or I say pen, I say pencil. It is extremely arbitrary. Something else could be finger, right? What I call a pen could be something else. Why is a rose a rose? Shakespeare says, what's in a name? That which you call a rose will smell just as sweet by any other name. So language can be extremely arbitrary. In English, if I say finger, F-I-N-G-E-R, to refer to a part of my hand, in Hindi, Urdu, it would be ongli. In any other language, it would be any other name. So the object remains the same, the body part remains the same. But the language, the word that is being used to refer to it may change from one society to another society, from one language to another language, from one area to another area. Rural and urban variation also makes a difference. We'll study that in the next bullet point. There is interchangeability in language. This is one of the language properties. Language can be changed, adult to childlike. As adults, when we speak to a child, do we speak in a very adult-like manner? We speak to a child like a child, in a language that the child will understand. The language that I use to address the classroom is formal, professional language. The language that I use to talk to my friends will not be the same language as I use in a classroom situation. When I'm at a conference and presenting a paper, the language will be more academic, will be more research oriented. Don't we say to small children, don't talk like a girl, don't talk like a boy? Actually, there is no such rule that girls talk like this, boys talk like that. It is more of a social construct. It is more arbitrary. In some languages, for example, uh, aya, we use that for the masculine gender. Wo aya. When we listen to this part, we understand that we are referring to a male person, that the gender is masculine. Wo ai, aya, ai. Rakha, rakhi. Kept, put. How does it matter? She put, he put. She kept, he kept. In English, there is no such variation. Then there may be interchangeability in language depending upon whether a person is from the rural region or from the urban region. Very often, you might be in your own mother tongue, whether it is Hindi, Urdu, or any other language, you might be noticing the difference between the Dehati way of speaking and the city way of speaking. So how English is spoken in a city may vary from how English is spoken in a small town. And the end purpose, are we using language at the home level? It will be definitely different. When parents and children talk in the family, the kind of words, the kind of language they use will be different. But the language that will be used in a bank, in an office will be different. It won't be the same. Let us move to the next slide. Another property of language, as laid down by Charles Fockett, is specialization. If a child is completely cut off from a family, if a child is kept away from other human beings, do you think the child will learn human language? No. Language skill is acquired in a given environment. It is a very consciously acquired skill. And again, it depends on the situation where a child is placed in. According to the environment, the child picks up language abilities. When we come to the other language classes, we will learn how to read stress in English, or to learn stress in English, especially word stress. It is very difficult. Phonetics is also difficult for the Indian learners because that is not our native language. Whereas a child born into a family speaking English, a child born into the native English speaking environment does not need to learn word stress or phonetics. It comes naturally to the child. The last two language properties are displacement. Language cuts across all boundaries of time and space, and language can be culturally transmitted. With this, we come to Unit 2. As I told you, Unit 1 is purely introductory. It is just introducing you to the study of language. Unit 2 continues with this introductory information. It tells us about why language is important. So both Unit 1 and 2 are purely introductory units where specific information is not being shared. I have two quotations, as you can see on your screens. One is a quote by Fockett. Language is the most valuable single possession of the human race. Undoubtedly, yes, it is the human beings who can speak, and to know language is a very valuable possession. Humboldt's definition is also very, very interesting. Man is the man through language alone. A human being is a human being because we have the ability to speak. In the course of Unit 2, we come across the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis. What the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis is given at the bottom of your slide. Point 1, language determines thought, and 2, language influences thought. This hypothesis was propounded by Edward Sapir and Benjamin Lee Whorf, and it is referred to by their names, Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, where the conditioning influence of language is discussed. One other aspect that this unit talks about is the social and cultural organization. As you can see on your screen, language enables both social and cultural organization by influencing human thought. Let us quickly look at the language forms. Language can take 3 forms. 1, the oral language. As you listen to me now, you are experiencing the oral language. When you look on your screens and see the slides move from one to the other, you are experiencing language in its written form. When you read from your SLM, you are experiencing language in the written form. When you answer the examination question paper, when you write your assignments, you are experiencing the language form, which is the written language. Then there is non-verbal language. Gestures are non-verbal language. When we talk, we use signs, the eye movement, the expression on the face, the hand gestures, the change in tone, the body movement, etc. All these constitute non-verbal language. Suppose somebody makes me angry. I do not have to use words to tell the person that I'm angry. By my face expression, I can convey meaning that I'm angry with you. If somebody wants to enter my room and I'm busy, the class is going on, and I cannot say, sorry, do not disturb me, I can just raise my hand and ask them to stop and say, no, please don't come now. Or I can use my hand and say, come later, talk to me later. So these are all examples of non-verbal language. The next slide is important. We will discuss more about semantics, as I told you, when we take up the course, the structure of modern English, where we will study phonology, morphology, etc. For now, let us understand how meaning can be of 2 types and how semantics deals with the study of how language creates meaning. What are these 2 types of meaning? One meaning is denotative. It is the exact meaning of the words or the sentence. That is the literal meaning. Suppose I say the pen is in my bag, or I say the bag is on the table. The meaning that is conveyed is one single meaning. It is the denotative meaning. It is the literal meaning. There is no further meaning that you can devise out of that sentence. The pen is in the bag. Put the pen in the purse. Take out your wallet. The bag is on the table. All these convey to us one single straightforward meaning. It is the literal meaning that is being conveyed. This is called the denotative meaning. The second type of meaning is connotative meaning. Now this makes language slightly difficult, but it also makes language very interesting. Take one example. He let the cat out of the bag. Now this sentence can have 2 meanings. There was a cat that was actually in a bag. Somebody put a cat inside a bag. That could be one meaning. If that is the meaning, then it is the denotative meaning, the literal meaning. But in English, when we say he let the cat out of the bag, we are using it in the figurative sense. We are using it in the connotative sense, and we mean he revealed the secret. When somebody reveals the secret, you can say he revealed the secret. That is the denotative meaning. Or you can say he let the cat out of the bag, which means he spilled the beans, or he revealed the secret. The sentence, he spilled the beans, is again a figurative sentence. It can have two meanings. One meaning, there was a bowl of beans and by mistake, he spilled the beans on the table or he spilled the beans on the floor. Or to spill the beans also means to reveal the secret. This is what makes language very interesting. So let us quickly look at the slide once again because it is important. If we look at language as creating meaning, we should know that it is semantics which deals with the study of how language creates meaning. Meaning making or meaning can be of two types, one denotative, the other connotative. Denotative meaning of language has only one straightforward meaning. It is the literal meaning of the words, phrases, sentences used. Examples could be the bag is on the table, the pen is in the pocket, the cash is in the purse. Connotative meaning has various layers of meaning or various levels of meaning. It is the figurative meaning of the words, sentences, or phrases used. Examples: he let the cat out of the bag. He spilled the beans. She jumped the line. When we say she jumped the line, we don't mean that she actually jumped over a line. It means that her place was 7th, but by some means she came quickly to the 3rd position. Unit 3 continues with the introductory information on language, but here some very specific information is being given to you. Note down, we have still not come to the actual history of English language up to this point. Unit 1 and 2, purely introductory, were introducing us to what language is, trying to define language. Now in the 3rd unit, we continue to understand about languages and their origin, and we come to one particular family of languages from which the English language originated. So you should know about the Indo-European family of languages. In the next slide, I'll share with you a tree of the Indo-European family of languages to make it more clear. Let us look at the bullet points now. When we talk about the family of languages, we are referring to the family tree of a language. And what is this? The family tree of a language is a group of interconnected languages that share some common linguistic patterns and properties. Of this family tree of languages, there will be one parental languages, which is the proto-language. From that proto-language, there will be various other subgroups. So a language family is a branch that sprouted from the proto-language. Two examples of proto-languages are given on your screens. One, Sanskrit, which is the proto-language of the languages in the Indian subcontinent, and Latin, which is the proto-language in Europe. When you look at the next slide, the last bullet point will be more clear. These 3 languages, English, Persian, French, seem so very different, but they're all examples of the same family of languages, that is the Indo-European family. So English, Persian, French, Greek, Latin, these are all examples of Indo-European languages. Now take a close look at the Indo-European family tree. On your screen, you see the Indo-European family. This is divided into 4 branches: Indo-Iranian, Balto-Slavic, Germanic, and Italic. Indo-Iranian is further divided into Indic and Iranian. Indic further divided into Hindi, Urdu, and so on. Not all languages are listed there. Iranian, Persian. From the Balto-Slavic, you have 2 offshoots. Baltic, which led to Latvian, and Slavic, which got further branched into three: West Slavic, South Slavic, East Slavic. West Slavic giving rise to Polish, South Slavic giving rise to Serbo-Croatian, East Slavic giving rise to Russian. So far we have not looked at English in this Indo-European family tree. When we come to the third branch of the Indo-European family tree, we have Germanic. Germanic gets further branched out into two: West Germanic and now North Germanic. West Germanic leads to English, German, Dutch. Finally, we have come to English. So after having come to almost the end of Unit 3, there is a first reference to the English language. If you look further on your screen towards the extreme right side, we look at the fourth branch of the Indo-European, from where the italic stems out, leading to Latin, from Latin, Spanish, Portuguese, French, Italian, etc., stemming out. So take one quick look at the Indo-European family tree. I'll pause a second here so that you have a visual image before you, before I take you to the origin of the English language. Okay, let us now look at the origin of the English language. From the examination point of view, the origin and development of the English language is important. In fact, what you could do is write a common answer, essay-length answer, and keep it ready to prepare for the examination. The question could be something like that, or the heading of your topic would be the origin and development of the English language. Now from your SLM, take out relevant units, relevant passages that discuss the origin of the English language and that trace the development of the English language up to the modern period, and write different paragraphs on each one of the topics. This will have a good 6 to 7 page answer, which you can use to write an excellent answer on either the origin of English, on the development of English, on a combined question on the origin and development of the English language, or on specific periods of English. For example, Old English period, Middle English period, or the Modern English period. So one long answer that you prepare from the examination point of view will help you to answer minimum 4 questions in the examination. Okay, let us look at this slide now. In Unit 4, we talk about Germanic. In the previous slide, we told you how from the Germanic branch of the Indo-European languages, we have the origins of the English language. So we can say that English belongs to the Germanic language tribe in the Indo-European family of languages. What is the period that characterizes Old English language? The period of Old English roughly sums up from 700 to 1100 AD. During this period, we find a lot of influence of the Celtic and the Latin languages on Old English. As we move further, we find the year 1066 AD marking a very important event both for the history of English language and the history of English literature. That is the Norman conquest of England. The Norman conquest took place in the year 1066. It is an important year to remember. You should remember the years of the periods also. What is the Old English period? You should remember 700 to 1100. What was the year of the Norman conquest? You should remember 1066 AD. What is the period of Middle English? 1100 to 1500 AD. Unlike in the Old English period, where there was greater influence of Celtic and Latin languages, by the time we come to the Middle English period, we find less Celtic or Latin influence, and we find more influence of the French language. So, looking at the Norman conquest of 1066 AD, we can say that the Middle English period started in English with the Norman conquest of 1066 AD. One thing to remember when we talk about the Old English period is that Though we are using the word English, we are not referring to UK as we know it today. Britain in that time was divided into small kingdoms. There is a spelling error here. Britain at that time was divided into small tribal kingdoms and was, excuse me, there is another mistake, and was not a unitary state as we know it today. UK, England as we know today is not the same UK when we are talking about the Old English period, 700 to 1100 AD. What are the major tribes that were there in which the Old English language originated? Essex, Kent, Wessex, Sussex, Mercia, Northumbria, East Anglia. You may not remember all these 7 kingdoms to write in the examination. At least give examples of 2 or 3 names. Essex, Sussex, Kent, easy to remember names. So whatever you can easily produce, at least give us 3 examples in the exam if you are writing any answer on the Old English period. You can say the Old English period is from 700 to 1100 AD. Britain at that time was not a unitary state. It was divided into small kingdoms like Essex, Kent, Sussex, etc. Let us know more about Old English. Unlike English as we know today, Old English is a very, very strange language, very, very artificial. In fact, we need translation to study Old English. You cannot read Old English, you cannot understand Old English. Extremely difficult from the kind of English we know today. We will be reading more about Old English and some other language aspects when we take up the second course, the structure of modern English. There are certain things that you see on your slide now which may not be easy for you to understand. What do I mean by gerund? What do I mean by number? What do I mean by case, grammatical, gender, patterns? These will become more easy for you when I take up the second course and we look at all these aspects. So for now, just look at this as information that you need to know about the characteristics of Old English. If you have to write about Old English, these are the points that you will write. You will also say that Old English was purely Germanic because we are just at the period of the origin of English, and English originated from Germanic. From the initial influence of Celtic, Latin, or Scandinavian, we find the Celtic influence on place names or on region names. Some examples are given there. Kent, the place name Kent comes from Celtic language. The river Thames, which is very famous, River Thames in London, means the night river. This is also a case of Celtic influence. The Latin influence can be seen in 2 parts. One, the early borrowings based on the various invasions. So words dealing with warfare, words dealing with weaponry are borrowed from, let me make this correction, are borrowed from Latin. Arma in Latin, for example, is used as arms, meaning weapons, not arms as body part. I was making correction, sorry for the pause. Then the second part of the Latin influence can be discussed with reference to the conversion of Britain to Christianity. As Christianity began to spread into Britain, various terms from the English language, from the Christian religion, began to be included into the English language. For example, words like Pope, Provost, Church, these are all words dealing with religion based on Christianity, and these came to the Old English language. Words from the area or the field of study, teacher, school, grammar, history, these are modern words. These are again a result of the Latin influence. Some other words which crept into the English language as a result of the Latin influence are some animal names like tiger, camel, elephant. Illness names, fever, cancer, a simple word like talent, all borrowed or influenced by the Latin language. The Scandinavian influence on the Old English is basically because of the result of the several Viking attacks. The Vikings are also referred to as the Danes. So what are some words that were influenced by the Danes or the Vikings, or what is the Scandinavian influence on Middle English? In the use of adjectives, we have the verbs taken from the noun forms brother, skin, wife, verbs where we are talking about reduce, die, drown, pronouns they, them, their, each, all from the Scandinavian influence. On your screen, there is a last bullet point. We are talking about sounds, the sk sound and the sh sound. Those are phonetic symbols. You will learn more about phonetic symbols in your course, The Structure of Modern English, when we discuss phonetics. So short, shortage with the sh sound, and the sk sound as in skim, skylight, are examples from Scandinavian influence. All this seems difficult, very strange, because this is something that we are not used to. We have learned English maybe at school level, maybe in our families, maybe at the college level, but we may not have actually gone into the origin and the development of English language. So understanding these initial units may be very difficult for students who are new to the study of English language. Now, in Unit 5, we look at the development of English language. We saw how English originated from Germanic, how there was the influence of the Celtic and the Latin languages, how there was Scandinavian influence. Now let us move a little further and see how we look at the development of English. As we move now further and further away from Old English, we look at the different varieties of English. Over a period of several decades and centuries, English has evolved a lot. Now, as Indians, we are very, very familiar not just with American English and British English, but also with Indian English. So, Indian English is also considered a standard variety of English. Within one country, there may be different varieties. English as spoken in North India may not be the same as English spoken in the South India. English as spoken in Kerala, English as spoken in Tamil Nadu, English as spoken in Punjab or Kashmir will have a different variety. English as spoken in Anglophone countries like UK, America, Canada will be different from the English as spoken in, say, Bangladesh, Pakistan or India. Then there are also language varieties like Nigerian English or Irish English. In this chapter, excuse me, there is a reference to the 3 concentric circles as proposed by Kachro. We will take it up in the course on the structure of modern English. So more details on the 3 concentric circles, the inner circle, the outer circle, the expanding circle, will be discussed in our later classes. You have now 3 units devoted, 6, 7 and 8, devoted to the 3 major periods of English language: Old English, Middle English and Modern English. For Old English period, you will refer back to slide number 16, 17 and 18. Excuse me, that I've already discussed. I'll quickly take you back to those slides. Sorry. For the Middle English period, what are the things that we need to remember? From the Old English period to the Middle English period, there are some changes. In the Old English period, the word order was not yet fixed, but by the time we come to the Middle English period, the word order was fixed. In Old English, there was extreme use of inflections Let me correct the spelling mistake. Excuse me. So while Old English used inflectional forms for nouns, verbs, adjectives, in the Middle English period, this inflectional use of nouns, verbs, adjectives was simplified. In Old English, you find less use of the root word and more use of the inflectional words. For example, eat. It's a basic, simple root word. But in Old English, you will find various forms of eat, like eaten. But to find eat would be rare, because for every form there was an inflection. If in Old English there was more Latin influence, by the time we come to the Middle English, the Latin influence reduced, but the French influence increased, especially in law, in medicine. There was more of French influence on the Middle English. Then we also find that we are shifting towards more and more of prepositional constructions. This was less in Old English. In Middle English, we find more use of prepositional constructions. Middle English is much more closer to Modern English than to Old English. As I told you, it is not easy for us to read Old English, to pronounce Old English, to understand Old English from the kind of English that we study today. One important milestone of Middle English was that by the time of this period, in Middle English period, standard writing system was developed, especially because of the printing press. Because of the printing press, English writing system became more standardized. Before I take you to Modern English, let me quickly take you to slides 16, 17, and 18, so that you can look once again at the Old English period. So these are the slides that will give you more detailed information about Old English. Old English language was very artificial. We have extensive use of inflectional endings for grammatical usage. Gerunds had 2 numbers there. There were 4 cases, and there were 3 grammatical genders, and about 10 patterns of prescribed order were used in Old English. Old English was purely Germanic based. The Celtic influence, the Latin influence on Old English words is given there as examples. We also look at the Scandinavian influence on the English language. Now let us go back and see what we have to discuss about Modern English. You have a unit devoted to the modern and present day English as is spoken today. What are its characteristics? What are the important aspects and features of Modern English? I'm not discussing this now, because when I take up course 2, the structure of Modern English, we will be discussing it in much more detail than what is given in Unit 8. So whatever discussion we have on the structure of Modern English will give you every information that you need about Unit 8. With this, we have come to the end of the discussion of the history of English language. It was a very brief class. It was a very quick class. We quickly went through the slides. We did not look at various aspects. We did not look at the great vowel shift. We did not look at the Grimm's laws. We did not look at several other features. But most of these will be taken up when we look at the other course, the structure of Modern English. Whatever you have read now is sufficient for you to have a basic understanding of the English language.